The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends. Thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we are joined by the Austin FC away travel guru, Seth to talk about the 2026 Austin FC and MLS schedule. We will cover a couple of player updates, including a couple of roster moves that have come out so far, and then we'll cover a few other pieces of Austin FC news. My name is Landon Cottom, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. I'm happy to be back here with you, just discussing family Thanksgiving travel plans, none of which seem to be too dramatic, and hopefully everybody will be cool. Jackson's been showing me helpful conversation starters on TikTok, like, what do you think about the Epstein files and things like that? So we will not. I will use none of his advice to hang out. I was about to be like, "Oh,
Jackson's doing homework to be like emotionally intelligent as a teenager." It's like, okay, never mind.
Nope. He's being a teenage boy. So one of the things that we got to do last week is we got to play in the Media Cup game, which is when the club brings all the various outlets together to play in a match on the field in Q2. I think one thing that's notable is we got asked to leave the cleats at home this year because we've heard in the past that this game is one of the most destructive things that happens to the pitch at Q2 all year because it's a bunch of has-beens trying to still do their best.
And there's a lot of rain surrounding the game, so I imagine they're trying to keep as many giant mud holes out of the pitch as possible, which means we were all slipping all over the place during this game, having to do like a real wide receiver route running foot chops anytime you wanted to change direction.
Yeah, and then the picture, we saw the photos too, and it was like the most dramatic set of photos because there's so many like players tumbling over other players because two people were contesting a ball and they both slipped and they both went head over heels over each other. Game wise, I don't even remember what the teams are called, but the green team,
you were
the team that I was
Verde something, and I was on Listos something. Let's call it Verde United and Listos FC. I don't know if that's right.
It's either that or the inverse of them. But yeah,
green versus black.
Green versus black. The green team won, but Landon, you picked up an award. So maybe tell us about that.
I won the defensive MVP award, even though my team lost 6-3. So Jeremiah was on the winning side, but I've told a few people, they're like, oh, I told them about the game and that we were going to get to play on the pitch at Q2. And they were asking how it went. And I was like, oh, I won defensive MVP. And then following it up by, we lost 6-3. And they're like, wait, that doesn't seem to make much sense. But I'm chalking it up to mostly that, like, I'm not going to name names. Our best player was a news anchor in, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s, something like that. Great skilled player. He's not always tracking back to defend. And so I tasked myself with doing that part of it. And so it was mostly I was just willing to run more than the other people on my team and not that I was necessarily the best defender on the field.
And that's why we never end up anywhere near each other because I spent most of my time on defense marking that same person as much as possible to try to keep it from getting in the goal. But yeah, man, they're always. That's always a fun time, to be able to do that, and I'm glad that the club makes it available to us. It's like it's a cool thing to be able to do. I think people often ask, like, among what are the coolest things that we get to do doing this gig? And I think being able to play in that game every year has got to be near the top of that list.
Yeah, absolutely. Like to play on grass that nice is one thing, but then just like being in that building when it's empty is very cool, regardless of when it is or where you're standing in the building. But to then get to go out onto the pitch and play a game it's unreal. I also want to do one more bit of bragging because it is like one of the proudest soccer moments. But Eric Goodman, writer for the Austin Chronicle, told me at halftime that I was intimidating when I stood over the ball. And the reason I was proud of it is not because like I think I actually am intimidating on the ball. It's a bit of showmanship that I've picked up because I realized whenever I received the ball and acted how I felt, which is scared, then people could see that and they just come and take the ball away from me. And so I learned to just like, okay, you received the ball. act like you can do something with it, and people will stand farther away from you.
I love that. The other thing that we need to just touch on, like, is that pitch itself, because you talked about the ball and, like, unlike all the soccer, I think all the rest of us play most of the time, the ball rolls true. There's no random hills or holes. I mean, you've got a little bit more time with the ball because it's predictable, in its action and space. So that's really one of the biggest benefits of playing on that field.
And then when you hit you hit a ball on the ground, when you kind of like strike down on a ball to keep it on the ground for a really strong pass, and you see this on TV, like in the pro games where the ball will like hydroplane and like spin backwards as it's traveling across the grass. You can do that. Like, I made it do that on the pitch at Q2, which is very fun. And it does not happen on the fields that I play on Saturdays.
No, and I do want to quibble the one thing. You talked about being an empty stadium, but I was told there were 20,738 people.
That's right.
In attendance. It's 89th consecutive sellout, I think.
The streak continues.
All right, that's probably enough about us, which I think one of the good things about the offseason is we get to talk about ourselves a little bit more. I mean, at least for us. I don't know if it is for everybody else, but let's get into the news. And this is something, I think this timeline is going to work a little bit different this year than last year. One big thing coming up is on Wednesday, November 26th at noon. Each club that's not still in the playoffs has their deadline to exercise options and submit bona fide offers. And then the clubs will publish on their website what they have done or not done. And it feels like in years past, Austin has not pushed up against that deadline, which is a day and a half from now in recording time, and less than that in listening time. But it seems like they're going to go to the mat on this unless they happen to release it tomorrow morning. And then most of you know what's going on before you even have the chance to listen to us talk about what might happen.
Yeah, if the Moon Tower curse holds up, you will already know it when you're listening to this. Or if it doesn't, you're still going to know it within 36 to 48 hours of hearing this. So we're going to find out soon. We've gotten one bit of news that the player put on social media so far. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to get into like why, like what could be the reasons of why we haven't heard anything yet.
I would imagine the reason we would not have heard anything yet is there's at least one person on this list that the matter of whether this option is going to be exercised or not has not been settled. So there's at least one somebody that the club's still negotiating with on whether they're going to pick up the option or not. Or, that'd be my guess about why.
And you could guess several of those players, right? You could say Danny Pereira because they have that option year, but maybe they're working on a new contract. You could say Ilya Sanchez because he has an option year, but they're almost certainly don't want to pay him what his option year is at. So maybe they're working on getting him a new deal at a different number. Brendan Hines-Ike is also in that camp. So yeah, it means that things are moving, and we're going to find out something in the next couple of days. But it could also be something that could be playing into it is reaching out to things outside of MLS and saying like, okay, if we think we can get this player, this kind of player, then we're not going to pick up this option that we have here. Things like that could be in the works too. So, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, we did get one piece of news. So Diego Rubio posted on Instagram, I guess everywhere probably, kind of a farewell. It's been great, but also I don't know, see you soon. I'm not going far. There's like the second half of that message makes it seem like he's still going to be around in some capacity.
But the very clear reading between the lines was that he's not playing for Austin FC anymore.
Correct.
I was surprised to see this. I understand he's getting older for a professional athlete, but the fact that he was on a supplemental roster spot, it seems like maybe it wouldn't have been hard to get him on a supplemental spot again. Like if we're speculating here, what are the reasons of maybe why they're not picking him up?
Well, I mean, one possibility is he just doesn't want to do the amount of work required to be a professional soccer player for the amount of money that he's going to be able to make, anymore in professional soccer. And one of the things I do know is that he and I don't remember the name of it right now, but he and Jesse Zardes are getting into training together. I think they both live northwest of Austin. I don't know, Cedar Park or Leander or somewhere. So maybe he's just like, I don't want to not eat real food and, spend 10 hours in the weight room every day and do all these things that I have to do to continue to be a professional player. Like I'll go run some camps with Giassi and watch my kids grow up and, do that kind of thing and just kind of move on from the game in a positive way.
Yeah, that's a real possibility. The other thing that I was thinking looking back at the end of the season is the last game he played was October 4th. I don't think he was available to play in any of the games after that. So maybe there was some injury that he picked up that had that not happened, and like he was a significant contributor to this team through stretches of the season. Maybe they would have picked him up otherwise, but then this injury happens and they're looking at him saying like, okay, we don't think he's going to come back to 100% soon enough, or we don't have faith that he'll come back to 100% at all given his age. So that could be a possibility too. But I'm sad to see this. Like he was one of the ones that I had a pretty good amount of faith that we would see back. And just the character of the guy, like he's just such a likable guy. I know folks who only watch him on TV, especially in years past, maybe have been annoyed by his on-field antics, but once he's part of your fold and you get to see him a little bit up close and what he's like as a person, what he's like from what we see from the outside of the locker room, seems like a really good guy to have around. So it makes me sad to see that he's not going to be sticking around as a player, at least. Do we think he could stick around in some position with the team still? I know that gets thrown around a lot, but it almost never happens, right?
Right. Ethan Finley's selling sponsorships, and it's like the only one that I can think of that's happened, especially with this team, right? Like Hector Jimenez moved on to another position in the league, but also it was a previous connection that he had, right? And I thought I read somewhere from somebody, I think it was maybe Moises from Verde All Day, that his only stated interest in sticking around was to be a coach, so he's not going to go make the official washing machine of Austin FC or whatever the next sponsorship deal happens. So don't believe I don't know how we'll see him around town.
You do see players move into academy positions and things like that, so maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah, does he have he doesn't have kids old enough to be in the academy yet, right? Like
I think his kids are quite young.
Okay.
So I think they would probably not be academy age yet, but yeah, that wouldn't stop him from coaching academy or MLS Next Pro level.
Yeah. I did want to move on to, speaking of academy, that Austin FC announced, this is today, Irvin Torres gets a homegrown contract. So guaranteed 3 years through 2028 with options for 2029 and 2030. 18 years old, academy product, having joined the U14 team in 2020. So he's got, we've talked about him a lot on this show. He's got a pretty long track record with Austin for a guy that's so young. And this is where they had to exercise this, right? Because of his age, they had to figure something out.
Yeah, I as far as I understand, once an academy player turns 18, they can kind of just go do whatever they want. And so I assumed, based on his progression, based on his performance at the MLS Next Pro level, that they would want to lock him down as soon as he turned 18. I think he turned 18 last week or the week before. And so I was like, okay, hopefully that news comes out soon. We got it today on Monday. So very happy to see Irvin Torres get this contract. We've been on record for 2 years now saying that we think he's the best prospect to be the first academy player to break into the first team in a real way. And I still believe that. I think he still has a chance to do that. I think the next big question is when will that happen? When is he going to actually start playing those minutes? And then another thing I think is worth talking through is what does this mean contract wise? Homegrown means that he is on a first team contract. It doesn't mean he is only going to play with the first team though. Micah Burton is also on a first team contract. He has not made a first team appearance yet. He's been on the bench a handful of times and that's it. So I would expect Irvin Torres will still spend most of his time with the second team. But if we do want to move him up, if we do have guys away or injured or whatever else, and we need an extra midfielder, we can move him up anytime we want and not have to spin those short-term loan call-ups like we have in the past. He can just come up whenever we need him.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing for this upcoming season is probably just that, where we don't have to worry about, oh gosh, which random second team player do we have that hasn't already had their 3 or 4 call-ups or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, it's Irvin again because he's going to fill out slot. Yeah, and I did want to touch on the Micah Burton thing because I don't. So that doesn't necessarily mean that in 2026 we're going to see a bunch of him because, like you said, we didn't see any of Micah, but it does seem like in the future he's got like a really bright future for the club. One thing I wrote was, does he count as our first real homegrown? Because Micah came from Minnesota. Owen was, I don't know. He practiced with the team, and I don't even think he could play matches. Like this is like it seems like the first academy success story.
I think Micah was in the academy as long as Irvin had been. Maybe that's not true, but Micah was in the first class of the Austin FC Academy, or like roundabouts there, maybe a few months after. But he was very early in that group, so I think there's still an argument there. But Irvin is from Texas. He's not from Austin either. So I think it would be disingenuous to say that
he's homegrown,
born and bred in Austin. But like, I think talking about Irvin's background, like this is like the MLS has a long way to go with development, with like the pipeline to professional play, to finding talent in this country. Irvin is a player that not that long ago probably would have been left behind, would have been ignored because of like where he grew up, or maybe not being in a near an academy where he could afford to pay to play to get into that thing. So he was just good enough to get noticed. Someone took a chance on him, and then Austin FC saw him at a tournament or something somewhere and said like, "Hey, do you want to come play for us?" And he said yes, and he's done what he's done here. Like that's progress, I think. Like to see it's again far from perfect. Like there's still a long way to go for US soccer to go to find more Irvin Torreses out there, but it's great to see that that it does work sometimes, that there is a pathway sometimes.
Yeah, this is the promise of this system paid off for Irvin, for Austin FC here. Do you want to cover any other news before we take a break and go to Seth, or you want to do that now? Or you have any more Irvin Torres points you want to hit on?
Yeah, I've seen this discussion in a few pockets of Austin FC internet. What would you set the over-under for minutes for Irvin Torres this season?
Wait, is part of the internet saying we should like get rid of Basard Savovich and make Irvin Torres our third midfielder?
There are pockets of saying give him all of Savovich's minutes. Yes.
Okay, that's kind of crazy. How many has he played so far? Like 7 or something? I think under 100 would feel like really good for me. I'd love to see him play a little bit, but like I don't think that he's in a position right now where if Austin's going to be very good, that he's going to be playing 1,000 minutes for the team this year.
Yeah, I agree. Like I mean, if he does, and it's because he's just beating everybody else, great. I would be thrilled because I'm a big fan of this kid. But I get a little bit annoyed by, like, I am a believer in like play the kids, and there's been a lot of the like MLS media, national media beating that drum for a long time now, and I love that they've grown that movement to an extent that there are fans of US soccer, fans of MLS, putting pressure on coaches, putting pressure on teams to play younger players and move them through the pipeline. I don't always think that you should play kids because they're kids. You should, if a kid is ready and someone looks like they can play the minutes, give him the chance. But I think here in Austin specifically, I get annoyed when people are like, these coaches or this team has never been willing to play the kids. I'm like, which kids specifically did you want them to play? Because we haven't had that many that were all that good, or that I felt could make a difference or were going to make a difference. And there's like, you could bring up examples where maybe I would be proven wrong on that, but I don't think you should give Irvin Torres minutes because he's young. He needs to earn them still. But I hope he does. I hope if he does earn them, I would love to see him get the minutes, but it's going to be a fight because he is a kid.
Yeah, well, we have it's only a data set of 1, but we got a real good comparison from that pretty recently. with the development of Sebastian Berhalter. And the Sebastian Berhalter on this 2021 team, there was a kid and was getting minutes because the rest of the team was terrible, was also not a very good player. And he needed 3 more years to develop into the player that he is now. But I think that's a real good example of like he was playing as a youth because there were no other choices. And hopefully we're not in a situation to have to do that with Irvin this upcoming season with Austin FC.
Yeah. That being said, there will be opportunities for him to show if he's ready. I think that the Coachella Valley Invitational is prime opportunity. We've seen in the past few years that when Austin goes there, they'll play everybody. We've seen anybody who gets on the plane to go to that tournament is going to play significant minutes there. And so I'm sure Irvin will be one of those guys who will get a chance. And if he goes out there and Nico Estevez says, oh, this kid is better than Beslar Savovic or brings us something different than Savovic can bring, sure, give him those minutes. I think that's all we have here. Should we move on to our schedule talk, Jeremiah?
Let's do that. It's kind of one of the favorite things that we do every year. One, just because Austin's top of the table. Wait, do we still top the table because of our alphabetical listing or not for next year? But anyhow, it's great to talk about.
I think Atlanta gets us on the supporter shield at least.
That's right. But it's great to have Seth Rao on, like you said off the top, travel guru, really nice guy, really smart guy, like a walking encyclopedia of all soccer knowledge, but also like a really committed member of the Austin FC soccer community, even though he lives in Chicago now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're happy to be joined by Seth again this year. We're going to talk through Austin FC's 2026 schedule and kind of hit some of the highlights. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Seth. When no one is around. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment, which you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees and minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. All right, we are back. MLS dropped all of their 2026 schedules a bit earlier than I guess we all expected, or a bit earlier than usual. As has become somewhat of a tradition, we're joined by Seth Rao, who is one of the head liaisons for away day travels for Austin FC fans, and then is also just a really smart, sharp guy whose brain works extremely different from mine. I think probably Jeremiah's as well. And is just like very good at remembering facts, synthesizing facts in a way that I am incapable of. So Seth, thanks so much for being here. We're looking forward to gleaming some insights about this schedule that we probably didn't catch on our own.
No, my pleasure. Always glad to be back and happy to have this as an annual tradition.
Jeremiah, you kind of put together our running order here for this segment. Where should we start?
Well, let's just start with the broad strokes of the schedule. So just like last year, Austin's going to play 28 Western Conference matches, 14 home, 14 away. This has become somewhat of a standard. So then the more interesting thing becomes, who we're going to play in the East, maybe that we haven't played, where the good road trip's going to be, who's, going to be fun coming to town. So before we get into that, because I think there's a very obvious first choice for away days on this one, I think it's also worth noting that Austin will kick off its 6th season at home on Saturday, February 21st against Minnesota United. First of all, it feels weird to already be talking about the 6th season, but like here we are. This is a long-standing thing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second time that we'll be playing Minnesota United at home for a home opener. I hope it goes better than the last one, because that first half was the most painful half of Austin FC soccer I have watched in 5 years of being a fan of this club. But to answer your original question, the obvious highlight on this schedule is that we go to play Inter Miami on April 4th. This will be the first time that we have played Inter Miami since Messi has arrived in Miami. But even more exciting than that this is going to be the inaugural match at Miami Freedom Park, which is the new stadium that they're building right by the Miami International Airport. If you guys ever fly in or out of that airport, it is right next to the rental car center there. You land over it a bunch of the time, and the stadium is nearly done and ready to go. So we should be able to open it on April 4th, which is going to be really exciting. This is going to be a VVIP match there. I expect Infantino to be there. I expect there to be tons of soccer legends. I would not be surprised if there are multiple heads of state there. This is going to be the most high profile match that Austin FC has ever played in. Yes, we made it to the Open Cup final this year. This match is going to be a little more high profile than that.
I hadn't considered that part of it, of like the VIPs being there. One thing I did think of, though, was like, this is going to be a hot ticket, period. I know that there's some rules about how many tickets, like they have to give an away designation, right? Like, how many seats do you think we're going to get to send a traveling group there?
That's a really good question. So league rules require that we get at least 100 seats at the away ticket discount price. Discount price might still be $85, $90. I don't know what the price is going to be. There is a rule that it has to be it can't be priced more than 10% higher than the season ticket holders that are closest to the people. That being said, these are the most expensive season tickets in MLS. I would be shocked if they're cheaper than $60. I don't think price is going to be the main barrier on people wanting to go to this match. They're going to probably try to limit our tickets as much as possible. I'm hoping that their away section has more than 100 seats naturally in it. We already have demand for more than 100. I'm sure we could bring 300-400 if we were allowed. I don't think we're going to be allowed that. There's also a world where they sell 100 to us at a cheaper price, and then they sell more than 100 to us at a more expensive price. I have email. What I do when all the schedules come out is I email the visiting liaisons for the opposing teams. About half of the teams in the league have already gotten back to me. Most of them are like, "Oh, the schedule came out a month early. Follow up with us in January on the price," which is a perfectly fine and normal answer. For Miami, I emailed them within 10 minutes of this getting announced, because I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to be asked about this a gazillion times. Miami is still in the playoffs right now. They beat FC Cincinnati, I guess 2 nights ago when this comes out. And that there's I don't expect they're going to answer us until their MLS Cup run is done. And even then, I'm probably going to have to bug them a lot, because, I mean, you remember opening up a new stadium is a crazy process. And we might not get tickets, prices, and information until mid-February. I just don't know how this is going to work.
Yeah, definitely a Wild West kind of thing, but that's also kind of normal for MLS, I guess.
Yes.
I know. And when the schedule comes out, I know a lot of folks, what the first thing they look at is who are our Eastern Conference matchups, because those are the teams we don't play all the time. Away days we don't get the opportunity to go to all the time. I would say, I mean, how do you rank this lineup of away days for the Eastern Conference? I would say it's not the most exciting one we've had, but still some decent options there.
I mean, again, this Miami match is the biggest regular season match that this club will have ever played. And I don't know of a situation that could come up that a regular season match could be bigger than this, which is kind of cool. I mean, obviously you could have a decision day that really matters or something, but you won't know that in November when the schedule comes out. Before I answer your question, I think we have to recognize this is the last time that we're going to have a schedule like this. The schedule gets really different after this. So we've had this format the last couple years of mostly West East. I think the short season is just going to be playing the West teams next year, so that in the spring it's just going to be play 14 teams in the West, and then we move to a format where we go everywhere in 2 years. So my understanding of the format moving forward is that in the teams that we play on the road in the spring, I'm just going to call it the Clausura season of 27, because I think that's actually an easier description of what it is than a mini season, because like mini season doesn't really make sense.
It's the sprint season, Seth.
The sprint season.
That's the name the executives came up with.
The sprint season. Sprint's not even a company anymore. Like, don't we need to have it be like sponsored by like? I saw someone.
A project manager came up with this. It's not branded.
No.
It's just
It sounds like a bad management consulting thing where you're just like, we're going to go from there to here. No, I have seen a preliminary division map for 27, 28 and beyond that has already the corporate sponsors, and they had the Southern. So the Southern California, Texas proposed division was the DoorDash tacos and traffic division. Which like is actually not half bad.
Is this an official pitch, or is this fan created?
This is definitely like Reddit fan created.
Okay,
but like I was like, oh,
but they are. I had not considered the fact that the divisions are going to have sponsors, because they absolutely are.
I mean, if I was at MLS marketing, I would. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about this schedule is that we have games scheduled at BC Place in September to play Vancouver. There is no lease on BC Place right now. And Don Garber was in Vancouver 2 weeks ago demanding that MLS take over the stadium to get a sponsor to bring in more money to the league. Because MLS is a party on all of these stadium agreements, which is a single ownership entity league. This is what you have. So I think moving forward, we're not going to have this issue. So the teams that we play during the sprint mini season, Clausura, whatever we're going to call it, we will play those teams on the road that are outside of our division in the next season. And then it'll sort of be like NFL level predictable of once we know the away teams that we play in the 27-28 cycle, those are the home teams in the 28-29 cycle. And it continues on a perpetuity until we add 2 more teams and we go to 8 divisions of 4 teams or something like that. But the schedule becomes a lot less. It becomes temporarily very exciting because we finally get to play Chicago, Columbus, Philly, and NYCFC on the road, which we somehow have not played on the road in 6 years. So when I saw the reaction, so I pre-draft emails when I got a heads up that the schedule was going to be releasing early the weekend before. I pre-drafted emails. I had emails ready to go to all 4 of those teams, and at 2:01 p.m. on Thursday, delete. I'm like, why did I do this at this point? It's very silly. So I was a little disappointed to see Toronto on there because we just played there 2 years ago. I'm actually pretty excited to go back to Charlotte. We went to Charlotte in 22. That was one of my favorite away days. I will be going to Charlotte on March 7th. We had a great win. Danny hit a nice ball from outside the box there. Their fans are fantastic. They're one of my, they're probably our closest friendship team in the East. We've had our fans really get along with their fans, and I would highly encourage that as sort of like an underrated trip. And it's the beginning of the season. Flights are a little expensive, but hotels in Charlotte are pretty cheap. Stadium's right downtown. There's lots to do, good food. Highly recommend it.
I know I asked you a question and we diverted from it, but let's stay diverted from it and go back even further to the previous question. Back to Miami.
Yeah.
Looking around at like what's happening around that schedule, what would you say if you were betting the odds are on Lionel Messi playing in that game?
If he's healthy, he is absolutely playing in that game. So the week before that, Argentina will be in the I forget where in the world they're holding it, but they have the match against the European champs. They have a couple other friendlies. If Messi is healthy, he is absolutely playing in that game. This is something that is really important. Obviously, I can't control if he's got to be healthy or not, but if he is healthy, he is playing that match.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier too. Like, it's not a thing where like All-Star game or whatever else. He's like, oh, I'm not going to that. It's a huge thing for the team he plays for, but also it's in the town where he lives. And so it's not as big of a lift. And then, I agree with you. If he's healthy, he's going to be there. If he's kind of healthy, he'll step on the field at some point.
He's going to, if he is healthy, he's playing that game. I mean, he played in Angola last week and then came back in Cincinnati yesterday when we were recording and scored a goal and 3 assists. This guy loves playing soccer, and like, he's 38 and he looks like he can play till he's 42, 43 at this point. I mean, it's truly incredible stuff.
Well, I think the next thing I want to go to is there's this St. Louis City away match on May 23rd, and then a home match against Seattle on July 22nd.
Yes.
Because there's a little tournament going on in between there.
Yeah, a little tournament that the guy that we were just talking about is going to be playing in.
Yeah.
But I also think, in addition to the World Cup, which, like, if anyone wants help on World Cup tickets and advice, I'm also happy to help. That's been a fun process to navigate, and I'm still looking for more tickets like everyone else. But it is been figuring it out slowly, which is going to be fun. I've got tickets to 2 matches, and hopefully maybe 1 or 2 more. But we'll see what I can afford with these stupid prices. But we're going to have a schedule now that not just breaks for the World Cup, but this is going to be the new normal moving forward into the 27-28 season. So instead of the last match being May 23rd, it might be like May 3rd or something like that. And then you'll have a 4-week playoff that goes there. And then the season will start up again around mid-July. From an away travel perspective, it's a little bit of a bummer because we get some of our largest away crowds over the summer when schools are out and people can travel with their kids and families. And we have a lot of educators and other people like that involved in the Austin FC community. So it's a little bit of a bummer from that point of view. But overall, I'm a huge fan of the switch. We should not be playing soccer in Austin when it's 105 degrees, also competing with the World Cup, Club World Cup, Copa America, Euros, aligning the transfer windows, things you guys talked about last week. Like the move to the new schedule is a very good thing for making the MLS a much better product.
Yeah, we're big fans of it here as well. So like you said, there's going to be the big, the summer break and then also the winter break.
Yeah.
Whenever we do the big schedule switch. So this is kind of an interesting little run up to that and kind of a practice run. I realized last week, like thinking about like when they announced the schedule switch, I was like, it'll be really nice to not be in Q2 all summer starting in 2027. And I was like, we're not going to be in there all summer this year either. So we've kind of spent our last summer being in the stadium all summer.
Yes, but like, okay, July 22nd at home, August 15th at home, August 22nd at home. There are still 3. So I don't know what we consider summer. I mean, it's Austin. It could be a 6-month summer for all that we care.
And it is often starting like in May.
Yeah.
So like if we're not having to do like those months stacked back to back to back, it's brutal, man. And then to get more games in those shoulder seasons, like which are the nicest times to be in Austin. Like I think I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's going to be hot still, but we're going to get some more guaranteed cold games too, or at least cooler games.
And my hunch is that the teams, the Chicago where I live, or the Montreals, Torontos, New Englands of the world Minnesotas are going to get a bunch of late July, early August matches. Because you know what? That's when it's nice to play soccer up there.
Yeah, for sure.
So expect next season's Clausura to be the last time we open the season at home. Like we've opened the season at home. Well, for 5 of the 6 years, obviously we opened away during the inaugural season because the stadium wasn't ready yet. But we've opened at home the last 5 years, and that'll be true in 27. After that, don't ever expect a home opener again.
Right, because it's not just the Western Conference teams in the North. It's going to be everybody, right? Like the pool is open at that point. And so we're almost going to have to be traveling in that first little stretch. So looking at the like overall congestion of the schedule, it like right now, I put it all out on a calendar and put the FIFA dates in there and everything. It doesn't look too terribly congested as it stands, but there's still, we don't know anything about 2026 Open Cup yet, right? So if you add 2, 3, 4 Open Cup games in there, that changes. And then if you add in Leagues Cup, no details about Leagues Cup, but Andy Loughnane in the press conference they had last week or 2 weeks ago hinted that like, okay, Austin might be playing in it. And then there's this little window just on the back end of the World Cup where there are no MLS games scheduled for the weekend of August 8th.
Yes, you say your brain doesn't work in the same way as mine does, but like that is an.
I did homework this time because I knew I had to keep up with you, Seth.
Yes, I noticed the same thing. I fully expect that we will be playing 3 Leagues Cup matches between August 1st and August 15th, which means that we'll have at least 8 matches in the month of August, which is a lot. And I expect that we would have a bunch of Open Cup matches probably in May, maybe 2 rounds in May, or maybe even 3 rounds in April and May. So they finished qualification for the 16 amateur teams that qualified for the Open Cup yesterday. So I expect that we will get some information on the Open Cup soon. USL is having a ton of new teams enter this year, so like I just don't know exactly how the format's going to work. I really hope that we do have the chance to, at least since we're not going to go to CONCACAF Champions Cup this year. If Philly had beaten Nashville in that semifinal game, we would be going to CCC, which is a little disappointing for my away travel heart. My budget is probably very appreciative of this, but it is it's its own world there. So I do expect that we will be in Open Cup and Leagues Cup. So expect a lot of matches ahead.
Yeah. So we already said Seth is such a great like travel liaison for all these away days. He's also sneakily a very connected man and just happens to know things sometimes. Like, have you heard anything about like Open Cup or Leagues Cup about like shifts to the format? Or are you expecting it to kind of be more or less the same as it has been?
So Leagues Cup, my understanding is going to stay the same format that it had this year, where it will be the 18 playoff teams from MLS and then 18 teams from Liga MX. That means 3 more matches at home, most likely, unless we draw like in America or something and they want to play in Houston or something like that. So
But it would be probably like a Mexican team choosing Austin as home, and instead of Austin choosing a home.
Yeah, or they might want to be
spot.
like, we don't want to play at Q2. The fans are too rowdy there. We're going to move the match to, I don't know, to San Diego or something. Like there could be something like that happens. But I would, if I'm people who are, if you're in, it's right before Thanksgiving and I'm planning a big family vacation. Oh, I see that we have the weekend of August 8th off. Don't assume that. Assume that there's going to be 3 more home matches between August 4th-ish, August 8th-ish, and August 12th-ish that are not announced on the schedule yet.
I was going to ask about days, and I didn't look at this, and maybe you haven't done this research yet, but this coming up season, we've got 7 Wednesday, 23 Saturday, 4 Sunday. It feels like more Wednesdays
than
in the past.
A little bit more Wednesdays, and then once you add in 2 Leagues Cup matches, and then if we were to advance in Leagues Cup, that's probably another 1 or 2 Wednesday matches. Open Cup will be Wednesdays. We're going to be playing a lot of Wednesdays. It's just, and that's going to be part of the reality moving forward with 2 breaks in the calendar moving forward. We're just going to have a lot of Wednesdays. I mean, Europe plays plenty of Wednesday matches. I mean, as someone who, when I can work from home and look at my multiple screens, yeah, like Champions League, like will come out later today. Like those days are great. It's obviously a little different when it's like we're playing at LAFC at 9:30 Central Time on a Wednesday, as we are in October. That's not always the best. I did notice, however, our San Diego FC match, which is a Wednesday match, is an 8:30 Central Time kick. And then there is one more, Seattle, which is also a Wednesday away match, is also, those are 6:30 Pacific time kicks. So at least it's 1 hour earlier, but like on a weeknight, like on a work night or school night, like an 8:30 kickoff is infinitely better than a 9:30 kickoff. I mean, we're recording this on Monday night, and the playoff match between San Diego and Minnesota is going to start in 30 minutes or so. And I'm not gonna, like, if the match is really good, maybe I'll stay up past the 60th minute mark, but like a 9:12 start on a Monday night for a playoff match, like that's not great for those of us who have to do work the next day.
One other thing I noticed about this schedule is, I guess it's like another trial run for after the schedule flips, is we're not really playing through international breaks that much this season. So we had a question from a listener a couple of weeks ago about like missing players for the World Cup. I know right now there is a window scheduled for, is it March, that Uzuni and Svatak are slated to be playing in those playoff rounds. MLS does not have games scheduled during that window right now. So it looks like if both one or either of those guys do make it to the World Cup, Austin will not miss any games with those guys gone.
Yeah, and with the schedule, with the last match being the St. Louis match on May 23rd, teams can begin reporting for World Cup training camp on the 25th, and obviously with the World Cup being in North America this time, that our players who will be going to the World Cup won't have very far to travel. So that's a good thing. There is one thing that is different about this schedule versus the past is that FIFA consolidated their fall international breaks from 3 breaks to 2 breaks, which I really like. So we're going to have a 2-week international period with 4 matches at the end of September, early October. So if you see the weekend of October 3rd and why there are no matches, that's an international break weekend. That being said, with Open Cup, with Leagues Cup, with, Texas weather or wherever else weather, don't be shocked if some of those those other windows get filled in with matches. Another huge improvement with this schedule is that I am hopeful, knock on wood of the table that I'm on here, that we have ended the best of 3 playoff format, and that the playoffs will start after the November international break, and it will just hopefully be a 4 or 4.5 week sprint. So MLS Cup would be 1 week later than it is, so it puts it on Army Navy weekend rather than like college football conference championship weekend, which I think is actually a big win for the league. Yes, it means it's 1 week later, and watch, we're going to have a December 12th game in Minnesota or something for MLS Cup. But you know what? If I'm on my couch watching it, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also not a 2-week break in between in between rounds.
Yeah. Or you know what? If we're playing in Toronto or Montreal for an MLS Cup, I don't care if it's 0 degrees. I will be there because I'm a crazy person. And I'm sure many of our listeners, if we were playing in a cold environment for MLS Cup, that being said, it would still be a lot to break it. Kansas City hosted an MLS Cup where it was 13 degrees outside. So I hope that record is not broke.
Jeremiah, what other questions do we have for Seth before we let him go?
Let's get into. We've sort of talked about your role in coordinating travel, and so you've done this for several years now for the Austin FC away fans. I don't think either of us managed to make like a significant away trip this year. I always exclude Dallas and Houston when we're talking about these, but when we have, it's always been a good time. But like, what were your highlights maybe from either this year or years past, Seth? Like, what can people expect when they book a trip?
So I just want to shout out everyone who traveled away with us this year. We had over 1,000 away fans, and some of our largest away days were not the Texas away days. We always have a lot of people go to Colorado. We had 130 plus people come up midweek for the Open Cup semifinal in Minnesota, which is honestly one of the most fun matches I've had as a fan of this club. And they let us bring in instruments. I mean, you guys could probably hear it on TV watching it at home. Like it was, and we made it like the amount of Minnesota fans that came up just to like shake people's hands in jealousy was pretty awesome. That's not the norm. And especially now that more teams saw like, oh, you guys brought a bunch of drums and horns there, it makes it very unlikely that we will get those privileges in the future, even though we did nothing wrong. But other teams don't like being outshined by this. Usually what we do is for big away days, the front office will chip in and they'll host a night before event that usually involves like some pickup and then maybe like a bar type event the night before. And then we usually do a pre-match meetup. If they're not doing it for more casual groups, we always set up a WhatsApp chat for anyone who buys through us, because the way that we do it is that you can go to the Los Verdes store, but you don't have to be a Los Verdes member. You can be any member. I mean, occasionally I do have to vet people. Like we definitely had some people for the playoffs that were LAFC fans that tried to buy into our section to get cheaper tickets. So we do a little bit of vetting, but it's very light. For Miami this year, if we only do have 100 tickets, we might restrict it to 1 per member or things like that. We've done that in the past. We're usually a first come, first serve because most of the time the tickets don't sell out. But Miami this year, I fully expect to sell out. So we will have to figure out the right approach to that. And that's something that it's just part of the role of navigating this. But for the most part, people are really friendly on away days. I mean, some of the larger away days, you start running into people issues. This year, we took over 200 people to San Diego. And yeah, a few people end up drinking too much or things like that. And you sometimes have to be an adult and deal with these issues. And that's reality. But 99% of the time, people are on amazing behavior, whether we win or lose. You be loud, you support the guys, and you have a great time. And you know what? We actually won a bunch more on the road this year. Like if we look at our form this past season, we had a lot of drop points at home. Like we actually did pretty well on the road. I got to see a number of road wins, which is always fun.
And it's always fun to like connect with new people too. And like if you're going on your own or with one friend or a partner or something like that, you're not going to be short of friends with something in common to hang out with. And then also just like meeting listeners of the show or folks that like I've seen their name online but never met in person. Like that happens on every away trip that I've gone on. It's always a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And like also I would just encourage you to go to cool places. Like
right.
we will set up like cool things, but like you can feel free to do like a thing with like 40 people. Like a lot of times, like if there's a baseball game in town, we'll get tickets to the baseball game or do things like that. But you're like, okay, I want to go see a show at a local theater. I want to go do whatever. Like enjoy these cities. Like especially there's a little bit of me that would rather than us get the tacos and tequila Southern Texas and or tacos and traffic, not tacos, but tacos and tequila would work too. But there's like the Southern California, Texas region. Like if we got the Cascadia region and we were guaranteed Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver away every year, I have no complaints about that because honestly, I'd rather spend time in Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver every season rather than every 2 seasons versus Southern California, which, okay, we'll probably play the Galaxy or LAFC if they aren't in our division. Okay, we'll still get out to LA plenty.
Yeah, for sure. Jeremiah, any other highlights you want to hit here? Or are we good?
I think we hit on most of them. I really appreciate you. Well, maybe Seth, since you're do more research than both of us, is there anything? This is like the at the end of the interview when they're like, "Is there anything that you wish we would have asked you about, or that you want us to know about before we decide you can move forward in this role?"
No, I think it's a I mean, again, I'm always glad to continue to do this. Like, if people want to be involved, like, we want to make this as easy as possible. So, like, I can tell you, I've already gotten multiple messages since the schedule came out, mostly about the Miami match, but about other things. Like, if you have any questions, I think most people who listen to the show know how to find me, but my Insta DMs are open. My email is just ralphseth@gmail.com or travel@Los Verdes Away or my Anthem. Any of these emails, I'm not a hard person to reach. I think my cell phone is published on every site on earth. So
we'll put your cell phone in the show notes.
No, you don't need to do that. You can. I don't care. I'm sure it's easily Googleable. But like you get to the world of like just reach out. Always happy to help. And we want more people to be involved. We also want to make this more affordable. We understand that like the tickets to the game oftentimes are like $25, $30. It's not that expensive, but flying places, getting hotels, Airbnbs, other things like that can be really expensive. So like if costs are a reason or a barrier towards people holding back, like reach out to us because we have creative ideas, like people who will be willing to share hotels or people who are willing to chip in miles, other things like that. Like if people want to get to games and cost is a barrier, let us know because we can be creative about some of these things and help get more Verde folks on the road.
Yeah, this community always steps up and is always never stop feeling lucky to be a part of this community that's sprouted up around this club. So, Seth, thanks so much for being part of it. You are a very important part of it, and thanks for joining us on the show again.
My pleasure.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, and we've said this before, there's houses for sale in my neighborhood. There's houses probably for sale in Jeremiah's neighborhood.
There are.
Maybe you'll be our neighbor one day, but talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast because
it's the best, and we're going to win 3 different titles in 2027, and we need to start preparing for it now.
MLS Cup, US Open Cup, and then a super secret competition that doesn't even exist yet.
Yes, exactly. That one. We're going to win the baby season MLS Cup. We're going to get like a half-size star. It's going to be great.
Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We want to thank Seth Rao one more time for joining us and sharing some of his 2026 schedule knowledge with us. We do have a few other pieces of Austin FC news we want to get to. Jeremiah, where should we start here?
Well, let's start with the new Austin FC 2 head coach, but not new to the Austin FC project, Jason Shackell, I assume.
I believe that's
England,
right.
Was the U16 coach?
Yes, that's
came
correct.
Came to the academy in 2021 with the U15s. Took over U16 head coach in 2024. from England, spent a long time playing in England. I love this. His career highlights included three promotions to the Premier League, which I assume means that he was also part of multiple relegations. But we're just not going to talk about that part.
Yeah, it was with Wolverhampton Wanderers, Norwich City, and Burnley, which, given the history of those teams over the last 20 years, that's probably true.
Yeah. This
N-
does
not
mean that
not knocking his experience, though. That is tremendous.
No, I just love how these press releases get written. I just always enjoy that part of it. But it replaces Brett Utley, who was had a contract from 2023 to 2025 that expired. Had a pretty successful, especially early on, career with Austin FCito, but was not renewed for whatever reasons. I'm sure we'll see him pop up again. I feel like he did enough as a coach to warrant getting coaching opportunities somewhere else at a lower level in the MLS or in the U.S. soccer landscape.
Yeah, from our view outside, like, what do you chalk this up to? Why do you think they're making a change here?
I mean, the background of Shackell has to lead. Well, I don't know. My guess is just that. Well, this fits with what we know about Roto. The importance of emphasizing like this is a development path and like bringing people from the academy through the second team into the first team. And less of like a holding. Remember that team in 2023 had a bunch of guys that were like 23, 24 years old, the kind of guys that wouldn't be on the team anymore. It feels like this is just a commitment to really like developing youth all throughout the layers of this team.
And like developing staff as well, probably, right? Like letting more people have a chance. Like, I don't know, like we're not in there. We don't know what goes on in those rooms. And also just like the second team, like MLS Next Pro, they are development teams. And so you don't always judge them 100% based off of win-loss records, right? Like it's about other stuff. And so, yeah, who knows what the reasons are for making a change. Brett Utley, from my interactions with him, from everything I've heard from other people's interactions with him, is just a very lovely man, like a very nice person. And so I do very much wish him the best. But also, like, I can understand like making a change, trying to find something different, bringing in a different voice, different experience, different background to try to do something different with this team. So, yeah, I don't fully know how to feel with it, but I do. Excited about Jason's background, but also very much wish Brett the best in the future.
Yeah, I just want to echo that point because, I mean, 3 years is not decades, but it feels like a position where you want to have some turnover and have people moving through the program and not get stagnant. And I think about like minor league baseball. It feels like a lot of times the lower levels, which are the developmental levels, you have coaches that are there like 2-3 years that they're either going up, continue to progress up the coaching tree, or they're going somewhere else to see if there's like a better fit. And it seems pretty common. And this feels like a thing that's really similar to that now in Austin.
Yeah. And I think Brett will get a chance somewhere else as well. So curious to see where he pops up next, but I'm sure he will get a chance somewhere. What else do we have here, Jeremiah?
I think just before we get into sort of this fan sentiment thing, and we're going to talk a little bit about Verde all day and Phil West fan poll, because I think it's an interesting insight into where people's heads are. Like, I think we have to talk about this Vancouver LAFC match.
Oh, man. Yeah, that one was wild. It was.
I was gonna say, did you watch it all? I mean, I have to admit, I turned it on like at halftime when I knew something was up and did not watch the whole game.
I think I turned it on like 20 minutes in because I think we went out to dinner or something that night and then came back and turned it on before a goal had been scored. So I got to see all of the goals and all of the craziness for the last 70 minutes of regulation and then everything that happened after that. But that insane goal from Son towards the end of regulation, and then in the extra time, I think LAFC hit the woodwork 3 times in the span of like 4 seconds or something like that. It was a crazy game. And I'll say I was rooting for Vancouver, and to see a team down playing 9 versus 11 at the end of a match, like to see them pull it out and win, that was a lot of fun to watch, and just MLS After Dark for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the results are so. Yeah, Vancouver goes up 2-0. Sun scores twice in the second half, including the one that was 90 plus 5 in a match that I don't think had originally even had that much time. Yeah, the Vancouver Red. I mean, it's incredible. And then for all that, because it feels like one of these things that's like inevitable, where all that's going to happen, and then LA is going to win the PK shootout, and then it's going to be like, well, that was all exciting, but like what everybody thought would happen. So for all that to happen, and then for Vancouver to win the shootout 4-3 was just like extra special.
Yeah, crazy. So they will play the winner of San Diego and Minnesota, which is happening as we speak, as we're recording. Still 0-0, 15 minutes in for the record. But yeah, now that we're into like the less weird part of the playoffs, MLS playoffs, when we get to this stretch, are generally quite fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these other games.
Yeah, and the quality of the games is usually pretty good too, because you don't have this weird series things, and you kind of, you've weeded out the lesser teams, and usually it's a pretty exciting playoffs run. So let's go into this Verde All Day. I'll just set it up. So Phil West participated in a fan poll, and what was it? It had about
200 people.
200 FC fans that like took part in this poll, and there's a broad range of questions. How do you feel about the team? The future of the team. Was it a success? How do you feel about the coach? What do you think the position should be? Like roster decisions. Like, it was really broad ranging. So when you looked at this, what stood out for you?
Yeah, I don't want to give away too many of the details. People should go subscribe to Verde All Day and give Phil West a little bit of money for the great coverage that him and Moises do. But yeah, I think one of the things that was most interesting to me is he did polls on some of the player options, and if fans thought that we should pick up that player's option, the fact that there was 12.2% of people saying we should pick up Julio Cascante's option at the salary, because it was specified in the question, like at the salary on the option year, 12% of people said that we should pick it up. That feels high. And I am suspecting that Stephanie Cremiola found out a way to vote multiple times somehow.
Stuffing the box. Yeah. I thought that was quite high. I did like to see Nico Estevez had, I think, only 2% of people wanted to get rid of him. So the Nico out crowd has not grown to be anything reasonable, which would be crazy after this year to want to get rid of him. I mean, I understand like there's jury still being out on whether this is like ultimately the right long-term hire, but he's done enough.
Yeah, I was that one and a couple of others. I was a little surprised by positivity, maybe like the lack of negativity is what surprised me. And it made me think a little bit like, okay, we get into these conversations in these pockets online. Like, how much of that is representative? Is it this idea I like to talk of as like, are people saying or is person saying?
Yes.
And you heard one person say it and then you extrapolate it out to think like, oh, a bunch of people said this, where this is kind of a good reality check for stuff like that, right? And like, I imagine it's a biased sample size, right? Because it's people who are reading Phil's work, most likely, meaning that they are informed and well educated on the team, that they're probably less likely to have just an extremely wild or uninformed take. But still, I was a little surprised to see a general lack of negativity, which was nice.
I was going to move on to the negative. Do you have any other positive point that you wanted to cover before? I would say there's a general lack of negativity around the on-field product and Nico and some other things. But I thought in the second part of this, there's like some frustration with the match day experience, which I think is something I hear a lot. People who feel like they feel like the concessions are a lot less local seeming than they were originally. So some of that vibe has been lost. And then just with the continued rising cost of everything else, people are like not feeling like they're getting the value out of their game day experience. But that feels like something I've heard around enough to think that that's probably a true trend. What did you think about that part of the article?
Yeah, I mean, Phil pushed back on a little bit on the lack of localness, because there's a lot of local options still available in the stadium. Price, though, on the other hand, is crazy. Like, the stuff is expensive. The tickets have gone up even when the team is bad, and so it's hard to like judge people for giving up season tickets, deciding not to come back, especially with the product on the field. So I know there's a lot of people who are a bit like doomsdayist about it, saying that like the club is irreversibly harming the fan base by doing this. But we saw the US Open Cup final, that playoff game, the atmosphere was electric for both of those games. Maybe for the playoff game, it didn't last the whole game, but to start the game, it was great. I think it's proof that like, if the team is good, people will show up, people will come in there and they'll spend that money. They'll make room in their budget to do it. I think that stops being true at a certain point. If prices just keep going up forever, that can't be true forever. But people will come back and pay attention to this team if they're good again. But it does hurt whenever they're not good and those prices just keep rising and rising and rising.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the bridge to, like, for some people that it's just, we're so happy to have it. This is not true for me, because I'm still so happy to have a team, and it blows my mind that I come every week. But like, for a lot of people, that seems to have changed into, not like just the fact that we have a professional team to watch is enough to make you want to come out and spend the money, but like, now I need a team that's actually decent, or
it's also
like something more than that, which is a very fair. I mean, it's a very fair ask as a fan.
And in financial situations as well. Like, if it were me 10 or 15 years ago, I would be asking that question of myself too. Like, can I justify spending this amount of my income on doing this? And like, fortunate enough now to be in a position where it's like, I have really good seats and it's worth it to me now, and I can afford to go to it. And like, okay, am I happy with what I'm paying for it? No, because the product is not always good, but it's not as big of a question for me at this phase in my life, where in a different phase of my life, it absolutely would have been a question of, can I afford to do this? Like, to spend this much of my income on a thing that overall is not making me happier, is not making my life better. Yeah, it would be a big question.
Yeah, I think those are the big things out of the survey for me. Did you have any other points that you wanted to hit on out of what you read?
No, let's leave the people wanting more. Go to verdeallday.com. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber, because it's great coverage. And yeah, read the rest of the article for yourself. Anything else we need to cover here, Jeremiah?
No, I think we can close this one out with the anticipation that next week we'll have a lot to talk about with both Austin FC roster decisions and then the roster decisions from other clubs. So like, I know last week we touched a little bit on some people who were already free agents to see whether they would be good fits for Austin or not, but we'll be able to speculate a little bit more on that next week. And then I'm going to really hate this. In a couple weeks, we're going to have Scott back on to go over the over-under recap and see how we did. And I'm
sure we did great, Jeremiah.
Everything that's related to offense is going to be wildly wrong. And I don't know. I don't know what else we guessed at, but I can't even remember the number of goals that we thought Uzuni, Vasquez, and Bukhari were going to score together, but I don't think the team scored a Smitty total is what our projections were.
All right. Well, here's to hoping that Roto and media team and company wait until Wednesday afternoon to release the roster decisions, so that this episode will at least have 24 hours to breathe before it is completely out of date. But in any case, we'll be covering all that next week. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about the roster decisions, and then whatever Austin FC news comes up between now and then. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothings, you never.
La gente. Oh my God.
Because they love cheap boom boom sauce.
Yeah.